Cha Sun-chak was just an ordinary woman in the modern world who found immense joy in reading her favorite historical romance web novel. Her favorite character was not the main heroine but a poor orphan girl named Jo Eun-ae. One day, to her horror, the author suddenly discontinued the series just when the story was getting exciting. Frustrated, Sun-chak left a furious comment on the novel's site, claiming that even if she wrote with her toes, she could continue the story better. To her disbelief, the author replied, "Then try writing it yourself." The next moment, Sun-chak woke up in a completely different world. She wasn't in her apartment anymore. Instead, she found herself surrounded by elegantly dressed servants calling her, "my lady," and urging her to get ready. Looking into the mirror, she was shocked to see an unfamiliar face staring back, the face of Cha Sun-chak, the noble daughter of a powerful state minister in the Joseon-era novel she adored. She had been reincarnated, or more accurately, transported, into the very novel she had loved so much. But rather than panic, Sun-chak was elated. In the real world, her life was monotonous. But here, she was rich, beautiful, and respected. Her new family, though fictional, was powerful and treated her with great affection. Even more delightful, she realized that the timeline she had entered was still the beginning of the story, just before the famous Moonlight Gathering and the secret Dahong Club meeting, the key events that would set the plot in motion. Determined to enjoy this once-in-a-lifetime chance, Sun-chak vowed to live peacefully, avoiding interference in the novel's original plot. After all, she was supposed to be a minor character with no drama attached. However, despite her resolution, she couldn't help but become involved. When she saw Jo Eun-ae being humiliated at the marketplace by noble ladies, including the infamous Du Hwa-sun, Sun-chak instinctively stepped in. Using her knowledge from the modern world, she created an exotic cocktail using fruit wines and spirits, captivating the crowd with her flamboyant skills. The gathering was meant to be just another quiet elite meeting, but it turned into a festival thanks to her presence. What she intended as a small act of kindness toward Jo Eun-ae ended up disrupting the narrative. People started noticing her more than they should have. Her unique mannerisms, her odd choice of words, and especially her boldness didn't go unnoticed, especially by Prince Bian, the novel's main male lead. That night, as the full moon illuminated the skies of Hanyang, a grand celebration unfolded. There was music, laughter, and clinking glasses. Sun-chak, having a bit too much to drink, partied alongside nobles and strangers alike. But the next morning, she woke up not in her room, but beside someone she never expected, Prince Bian. Panic surged through her. This wasn't supposed to happen. According to the novel, Prince Bian and Jo Eun-ae were destined to fall in love. But now, with this one drunken mistake, the gears of fate had already begun to turn differently. Sun-chak stared at the silk canopy above her, heart pounding. The last thing she remembered was laughter and the sweet taste of her own moonlight cocktail. Now, she was in an unfamiliar room, large, elegant, and clearly belonging to someone important. Her breath hitched when she turned and saw Prince Bian, half asleep beside her. She leapt out of the bed, clutching a blanket around her as panic surged through her veins. "What did I do?" she whispered to herself. Prince Bian stirred and opened one eye, locking gazes with her. "You don't remember?" he said, his voice husky with sleep. "And no, I don't, I swear," she stammered. He simply watched her, an unreadable expression on his face. "Then let's pretend it didn't happen. If you truly regret it, act like nothing did. That should have been the end of it." But word spread fast in the palace. Servants gossiped, noblewomen whispered behind fans, and worst of all, Jo Eun-ae heard about it. Her innocent heart broke, though she hid it behind a calm smile. Sun-chak, feeling responsible, tried to fix things quietly. She attempted to avoid Prince Bian, to draw no more attention. But it was too late. The balance of the story was shifting. Jo Eun-ae began spending more time with another figure in the novel, Young Soo-kyeon, a gentle yet wise man from the royal library. Soo-kyeon had always been in the background, until he noticed Jo Eun-ae one day in the street, helping an elderly vendor. Her kindness caught his eye. He began to seek her out more often, offering books, kind words, and warm tea. Their chemistry was quiet but undeniable. Meanwhile, Sun Chak, now labeled a scandalous figure, faced disapproving glances. Her father, though fond of her, questioned her judgment. The court began murmuring about marriage arrangements, especially since she had spent a night with a royal prince. And Prince Bian? He watched everything unfold with cold detachment. Or so it seemed. Deep down, he was confused by Sun Chak, her modern way of speaking, her strange ideas, her laugh. She was nothing like the women he had known. Sun Chak sat alone one evening, gazing at the moonlight. This was supposed to be Jo Eun-ae's love story, she whispered. Why am I ruining everything? The next few days passed like a blur. Sun Chak tried to blend back into the background, to become the quiet noble daughter she was supposed to be. But it was no use. People talked. The night with Prince Bian became a shadow that followed her everywhere she went. To distract herself, Sun Chak dove into court duties and social events. She spent more time in the marketplace, offering modern ideas on commerce and trade that intrigued the local merchants. She charmed elders with witty conversation and started organizing small gatherings that included both commoners and nobles, an act that would have been unthinkable in the world of the original novel. While some were scandalized, others, especially the younger generation, found her ideas refreshing. Jo Eun-ae, who had expected to be the central heroine, was now somewhat sidelined. Yet surprisingly, she didn't seem bitter. If anything, she found herself more at ease with Soo Ki-yeon's gentle companionship than she ever was with Prince Bian's aloofness. But the greatest shift came from Prince Bian himself. One afternoon, while training with the royal guards, he heard laughter nearby. Curious, he approached and found Sun Chak playfully arguing with a young street vendor over the price of rice cakes. She looked carefree, radiant even. Later that night, Bian sat alone in his study, replaying the scene in his mind. Something about her intrigued him, her lack of fear, her unpredictability, her unfiltered thoughts. She didn't act like she wanted to impress anyone, least of all him. And that, more than anything, made him curious. Meanwhile, at the palace, rumors continued to spiral. Ministers debated whether Sun Chak's behavior was a threat or an opportunity. Some believed she was bewitched. Others insisted she had become too influential to be ignored. Amid all this, Sun Chak made a decision. If she had already disrupted the story, she might as well take charge of her own arc. She started writing a journal, part diary, part strategy log, where she recorded what she remembered of the novel's plot and tracked how her actions were affecting it. In one entry, she wrote, "If I am no longer the extra, maybe I can be the author now." And so, she continued, unaware that every choice she made was now being watched, not just by the characters within the world, but possibly by the author who had sent her there in the first place. The palace grew tense. Invitations were being sent for the upcoming spring banquet, an annual gathering where noble families showcased their eligible sons and daughters. Traditionally, it was Jo Eun-ae's time to shine. But this year, all eyes were on Sun Chak. Despite her reluctance, she prepared herself. Her tailor crafted an elegant gown woven with silver threads, and her hair was adorned with blue sapphires that shimmered like ocean waves. When she stepped into the banquet hall, gasps filled the air. Even the most cynical guests couldn't look away. Prince Bian, dressed in royal black and gold, caught sight of her and paused mid-step. For a moment, everything else faded. But Jo Eun-ae, standing just nearby, noticed the shift in his gaze. The event proceeded with performances, music, and political small talk. Yet beneath the surface, emotions simmered. Eun-ae tried to remain composed, smiling politely, her hands clasped together, but Soo Ki-yeon noticed how her eyes dimmed. Later that night, as the banquet reached its peak, Sun Chak slipped out to the garden for air. She needed space, from the stares, the whispers, the fear that she had hijacked someone else's fate. Unexpectedly, she found Prince Bian there, alone beneath a lantern-lit tree. "Can't sleep?" she asked softly. He turned to her, his voice low. "You're not like anyone I've ever met. You shift things, in ways I can't explain." She hesitated. Maybe I wasn't supposed to. Maybe I've made everything worse. Beyond studied her. Or maybe this world was waiting for a little change. At that moment, Soo Kyan appeared at the garden's edge, looking for someone. His eyes settled on Sun Chak, then flickered to Beyond, and he said nothing. The triangle of glances created ripples. Back inside, Jo Eun-ae watched from afar. Her chest ached, but she said nothing. It wasn't anger. It wasn't jealousy. It was the slow acceptance that stories change. Meanwhile, Sun Chak returned to her room and opened her journal. She wrote, I think I've become a part of this story. Not just a guest. She closed the book slowly, unaware that someone had been watching her write, someone cloaked in shadow, with eyes that knew more than they should.